The IDF does this, yes, the most moral army in the world. The IDF does that, again, the most moral army in the world. I can't get my head around it. I can't see, hear, or feel any morality whatsoever. Where is this hard-to-find morality that is so clearly identifiable to those in politics or the press? Is it just me who is so oblivious to its existence? The terms moral or morality are indeed continuously mentioned within the same sentences as the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF. In Western media, the Israeli army and its adjective of compassion are synonymous, virtually replaceable with each other, even if it's typically difficult to link morality with military action and consequences. One argument for the universally accepted shameful IDF code of conduct has been that the cards the IDF have been dealt have been very poor. The IDF operates as morally as an army can since it deals with terrorists, that being the entire Palestinian people, combatants that are embedded amongst the civilians, the other combatants, with tunnels excavated throughout the hostile lands that present major challenges to the defense of the Israeli people. And hence, it's not really a moral army per se, but the claim seems to be more like it is the least immoral. And when we have a look at the IDF's core values, a set of high humanitarian standards, within them, they have the so-called Tohar HaNeshek, the purity of arms, considered the spirit of the IDF, and it states, "The IDF servicemen and women will use their weapons and force only for the purpose of their mission, only to the necessary extent, and will maintain their humanity, even during combat. IDF soldiers will not use their weapons and force to harm human beings who are not combatants or prisoners of war, and will do all in their power to avoid causing harm to their lives, bodies, dignity, and property." So the IDF claim is really that it's not only an immoral army, but a moral one, above all those around the world. More moral than the Americans, the British, the French, the Australians, the Swedish, more moral than everyone. Just a side point here, to clarify my position in this video, when I refer to the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, I actually mean the IOF, the Israeli Occupation Forces, because that's what they are, an occupying force. But I feel that using the IDF makes it more of an all-encompassing and capturing message for those that don't know the IOF term. Just thought I'd clarify that bit for all. So when we talk morality of an army, what elements does that designation entail, and command of the behavior of such forces during war? In my opinion, there are 9 main factors that formulate the behavioral elements in judging whether an army is following humane practices during military engagements. The first is the element of the proportionality as required by the laws of war. The numbers of Palestinians killed in Gaza when compared to casualties in the Hamas attacks in Israel in October 2023 currently stands at a ratio of 50 Palestinians killed for each Israeli. That's a best-case scenario, and that number will only be on the rise. Predictions by experts reveal that over 80% of Palestinians killed were indeed civilians, and most of those were children. So on the front of absolute numbers killed, the IDF by no means is engaged in a distinction between the killing of combatants and civilians, and hence can't really claim morality on that front. Okay, but that's a tough one, as I stated from the outset. The IDF has a tough time because it can't safely delineate the Hamas fighters from the civilian population. So maybe we can find the morality of the IDF in their methodology of the protection of infrastructure, be it educational, religious, and cultural institutions, as well as sites of historic value. Yet here again, there are no signs that the IDF is exclusively targeting zones with Hamas combatants, or else why would they then be carpet bombing or rigging explosives of many such institutions across Gaza? Again, I'm unsure as to how the IDF can be characterized as highly moral at any standard with such unnecessarily destructive actions. But maybe they're making sure that the overall population of Gaza is safe and cared for, as they have indeed conducted advanced humane evacuation notices for people to abandon their lifelong homes and possessions. But here again, the IDF abandons any humanity with the blockade of electricity, food, water, and fuel from Gaza in totality. So the IDF applies collective punishment on all the Gaza population, resulting in severe health and safety consequences, and eventually a famine. Is there any part of this behavior that suggests a positive morality about the IDF? And with all the killed, injured, and sickly increasing in number day by day, one would think the IDF would make sure that safeguarding healthcare and medical facilities was a red line that must be respected. But lo and behold, the IDF narrative solely formulates a position, making sure that these places of safe haven for Palestinians are indeed military targets for its attacks. Hospital after another is bombed, attacked, and reduced to mere rubble, and the Palestinians are left to their fate unassisted. Well, in that case, one point of concern is that if the IDF treats the Palestinian civilians in this manner, then how does it treat the great number of Gazans it has incarcerated? I, of course, refer to prisoners and not necessarily ones that are captured Hamas forces, but merely men within the age of 14 to 70 who happen to be from Gaza, and the thousands that have been held hostage by the IDF for over a year without cause or reason. How does one view the way in which the IDF has so morally treated them? Well, the answer is clear there, with summary executions, with their humiliation, and with abuse and torture. So again, I find it hard to find this source or foundation of morality that exists within the IDF. One of the many debunked claims made by the IDF during the Hamas attack in October 2023 was the structured use of sexual violence, intending to wreak havoc and introduce fear and hatred into the Israeli population. But in turn, the IDF itself did utilize such tactics during 2024. Reports by the UN Special Rapporteurs Francesca Albanese and Reem Salim, Physicians for Human Rights Israel, and even the New York Times proved that sexual humiliation, assault, and violating acts have indeed been a common IDF practice. I'm really not sure how I could keep going with all this immoral code of conduct exercised by the IDF, but I have to say that one must be vigilant in assessing and analyzing all the various factors and situations that might elicit a moral stance taken by the IDF. Therefore, I go on. If we bring down the IDF to its separate and smallest parts, its people, its soldiers, those who are Abd al-Ma'mur, that's Arabic for those who are commanded or strictly following orders, what picture is painted? Does their morality differ from a higher level command strategy? Not so much. The IDF in their smallest denominations are equally as immoral as their larger body, the army and its strategists. From the looting of private property to the desecration of the sanctity of homes, IDF soldiers exhibit a cruelty that is not new. A cruelty that's reflective of the views that the Palestinians are lesser beings and undeserving of any consideration. Such acts of psychological warfare by both the IDF and its soldier base only proves that the questioning of its morality is not only valid, but that what needs to be disproven is not the morality itself, but the immorality, as it is much more prevalent. On another note, one could ask how the IDF engages with a supposed neutral body within the warring landscape, such as the press. Freedom of the press is theoretically an Israeli democratic staple and one considered sacred by many nations around the world, especially those of the developed world. And hence, the protection of these people should also be of the utmost priority. But the IDF on this point fail again. More reporters, cameramen, and technicians working in the press have been targeted and killed than in any other conflict, more than 170 in total. Now add to that the other taken-for-granted neutral parties like humanitarian workers who have also been killed, and that number stands at 600 approximately. And then one can start to understand the true ground the IDF stands on, and it's one of moral decay. There are more and more of these factors that determine the proper conduct of armies during war and which the IDF has clearly failed, like the displacement of peoples, land grabs for buffer zones, and so on. Now, maybe the statement should have been the IDF used to be the most moral army in the world. Maybe it deserved that title and tagline in the past. Okay, fine, let's go back 50 years in time and analyze if such behavior has changed within the last decade.
If I see something that means suspicious or something like this, I don't take chances, I shoot.
You open fire?
Yes. because I know I'm not dealing here with human beings. I saw them, they are all terrorists and they don't have any human feelings.
Not so much, I guess. Still, nowhere is morality to be found. Immorality of the IDF seems to have not paused at any moment during the last 50 years. Maybe even at some points, the cruelty and brutality were even more intense and extreme. I kept searching, and painstakingly I still can't find an inkling of higher morality anywhere that can characterize a position that the Israeli Defense Forces are indeed the most moral army in the world. I looked and I looked, and whenever the word moral came up, the word was preceded with the prefix "im", suggesting immoral. But then I finally stumbled upon what the most moral hoopla could all be based on. The IDF was the leading army in the world, was indeed the most moral army in the world when it came to animal welfare. Let me clarify just one point here. The animals mentioned and concerned would be sans Palestinians, so no Palestinians involved. You see, the IDF has a growing population of vegans, almost 5% today. The IDF strictly procures military attire that is animal-friendly or plant-based, non-leather boots, non-wool clothing, and so on. So powerful is the IDF's morality when it comes to animal welfare that many global NGOs openly praise them. But as soon as I found the scant morality within the heavy deluge of immorality, it all came crashing down. NGOs such as Let Animals Live have come forward in revealing that the IDF, even though pushing a narrative of compassion towards animals, has on an annual basis experimented weaponry on an average of over 1,000 animals, while causing grievous harm. So back to square one. No morality can be found within the IDF. So, as it fails time and time again to show any humanity, the IDF nonetheless keeps believing in its own lies, that it is truly humane and civilized. The enlightening part of this story is that the morality of an army, of any army, is a direct correlation and reflection on the morality of the nation, of those in power, and of those populations who vote those in power, when of course we apply the dimensions of supposed democracies. So from within the people themselves, the condoning of the behavior of the IDF is still all good and well. All is kosher. But when we look back at history, such contemporary license granted by populations or societies to their wicked leaders and armies and the various military catastrophes of the 20th century, such behavior never ends up going unchecked. Whether it was with an outcome of total failure of accomplishment by those committing such immoral acts, or be it with facing the music by the guilty parties once the music has gone silent. Only time will tell.